2023. The time is 11:01 a.m. I'm calling this meeting to order. In attendance are Commissioners Brooks, Matari, and Duncan. Are there any changes to the agenda? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and get started. Item 1 is our current project cost estimate with Boughton Construction. And Craig Shelby and Scott McLaughlin are here to, I guess, lead us in this adventure.
Yes, thank you very much. And by way of introduction, my name is Craig Shelby. I'm with Boughton Construction. Very excited to be here today. In fact, we're as excited to be here as we were back in July when we were pursuing this project. And as we've been preparing to come and meet today, we were thinking back to why we pursued this project and why we felt like we would be a good partner for the county to help bring this project through the process. And really the three things that Scott and I went back to were our ability to leverage the CMGC process, our relationships with the local trade partners, and then our knowledge and understanding of how to build on an occupied campus such as this one. And as we've been in the early stages of the process, we signed a contract in December, and then we're able to really jump in and start validating the number and get to work. And as we've done that, we feel like we've really started that effort of leveraging the CMGC process, and then have really reached out to trade partners to help us understand where current pricing is and what the correct validation is on the current scope. So that's what we've really been working on these last couple months. And as we move forward, it's really how do we take the partnership that we're starting to develop and work through hard things. We're going to have to get through those hard things together. And today there's going to be some hard things that we need to talk about and we need to find solutions to, and then find a good solution together. So our presentation today, Ken's going to talk through the timeline of the project and the process we've gone through so far. And then Scott will talk through our current validation, how we got to our validation, and then some options that we've put together to talk through. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to Ken.
Okay, great, thanks. I think you all can hear me. Yeah, I really wanted to kind of give just a brief background of, where we started, what we've been doing, and where we are today. Back in November 2020 is when we were awarded this project, and December we started space planning to really kind of help Kootenai County come up with the vision for this building and the size and space needs, not only now, but projecting, a good 20 years into the future of what this building is going to need to accommodate. February, we were looking at the original site number 1 that was between the Justice Building and the existing historic courthouse. And we had some draft floor plan layouts of that kind of came up with those working with all the users groups. We kind of refined those floor plan concepts a little bit better and had some other concepts in May on that original site. You had us kind of switch gears a little bit to look at this county master plan document in August of 21, which was a document that we created for you that kind of showed the effects of, okay, there were a number of departments that would move into this new Justice Building, and what would happen to the other county spaces around town, and kind of put some cause and effect to that for county services and the different spaces. January 2022, it was decided to look at a different site on the west end of the Justice Building that might be a better fit for the location of this new facility. So we kind of went through concept plans of that. April 2022, we kind of had our first initial look at exterior concepts of what this building may look like. Further refined that down to in August. October last year, we had an initial meeting with the city of Coeur d'Alene to make sure that we were looking at what their requirements were going to be design-wise, and made sure that our exterior concepts kind of aligned with the look and feel that the city would like. And then December is when Boughton came on board and kind of started that whole CMGC partnership with us and the county. So there's been quite a lot that's been going between that December of 22 to where we are now, March of 23, with Boughton and Lombard Conrad and the design, really kind of utilizing that CMGC process exactly how it's supposed to go, where they look at our concept plan layouts and concept elevations and start to put some costs to that. And we've been working back and forth with Boughton the last couple of months to really kind of refine some of these concepts, and really going through that whole process of, narrowing down costs and materials, and getting a really good idea of where this building is in today's dollars versus the last couple of years, from where we started. So I have to say that has been going quite well with Boughton, as it should be. That's really the background of kind of where we were and where we are today. I think the next slide will kind of go into some cost history.
Thanks, Ken. Are there, and I would like to say, if there's any questions along the way, just feel free to interject and let us know whatever we can answer.
Okay.
So we wanted to talk a little bit about market conditions, as this is not anything new to anyone who's gone and bought a gallon of gas or a loaf of bread or attempted to buy only 2 dozen eggs. We've really had a very volatile and kind of unusual construction cost inflation and escalation in the last 3 years. And so we wanted to take a snapshot and kind of show a context of what that really means. And so a couple things you see here on the slide. First is just kind of an overall industry-wide synopsis from a construction economist, Ed Zarinsky, who puts together a series of different construction-related outlooks and forecasts related to inflation. And he's tracked this from 2010 through 2022, and you can see really the spike occurring in 2020. And so if we put this in dollars and cents and square footage, a $24 million project, $400 a square foot in 2018, today escalating that roughly 40%, means that a project you would have in 2023 is $35 million, $583 a foot. What that looks like in 2024, what that looks like in 2025, still remains to be seen. We're still seeing volatility. We're still seeing the things in the news that are things we can't control. And so this information, we take this into account, and we've really been tracking it and trying to understand. I think as we move forward, we're not seeing pricing decrease. So at the end of the day, things are slowing down, but prices aren't decreasing. And so we wanted to just take a high level and kind of give an overall snapshot of what that actually means related to construction dollars, cost per square foot, and things of that nature. So with that kind of transitions us into our process related to estimating the project.
And if I could tag on here,
Yeah, absolutely.
This is Ken. I would say that this is not it's not unique to the Coeur d'Alene area. You know, we're seeing this on projects all over the market over the last few years as well. And I don't feel that Boughton's costs are out of line whatsoever with other projects that we're seeing.
Thanks, Ken. So our process putting together the current estimate for the Kootenai Justice Center really involved early outreach to trade partners. We understood the volatility of what we're going through. We wanted to make sure we had an immediate pulse in the local community on what trade partners or subcontractors are seeing for their scopes of work. To put that in perspective, what we are actually pricing is a set of documents that LCA has put together that most of you have seen. We'll show some of the renderings later on in the presentation. But they are a rendering, an exterior picture of what you see with assumptions of materials that have yet to be determined but are within a range. The floor plans are standard floor plans for the program that's necessary within the building based upon all the work that LCA has done over the last 2 years. And then we had an opportunity to collaborate with LCA on getting similar projects for finishes on the inside of the building. So making sure that we're aligning in kind of the extent of what could we expect in different rooms and different spaces. We have narratives provided by the mechanical and electrical teams to say, okay, of a project of this size, we would see a system that looks something like this from air handlers, lighting, and electrical. And then as well as a geotechnical report and a site layout. So we understand kind of where are utilities currently located on the site and how will they be impacted by the new building and what new building services are required. So we were able to package that information, do quantity takeoffs, and also get that out, as I said, to trade partners, multiple trade partners in areas where we saw concern. So mechanical, electrical, roofing, glass and glazing, areas like that where we saw high volatility. We wanted to get a couple different snapshots. So with all of that put together and packaged, on the right you'll see a summary of scopes of the building, so systems. And with that, this is a target value for each of these systems. So if we were all to agree that the current estimate is the direction we want to proceed, then as a collective group moving forward, LCA and I and Boughton and the team and our trade partners would all collaborate to make sure that we maintain the values you're seeing here. We make the necessary decisions around finishes, process, structure to maintain that. And so with that, we're at a number of just over 35 million today for the programmatically shown project at 60,000 square feet. And that does include some inflation and design contingency. So we are trying to anticipate that in that number, that we would have things that are still occurring moving forward. So but that is where our number currently sits for the current design. With that, we do have some options today as well. So we do want to talk about, that's where we sit with option one. So that's the $35 million, 60,000 square foot rendering, as I've talked about, the exterior that you've previously seen, or most of you may have seen. And then a floor plan from a program perspective. What's missing here in these four is the main level, is the site level. So, and I'm going to turn it over to Ken and Ben to talk a little bit about just what was programmed into that option. So there's a good firm understanding.
Yeah, this is really the same building that we've been showing, since the last presentation with them. It's the full program, prosecutor's floor, courts, AMP, the holding areas, clerks, the three courtrooms.
ADA access for the Justice Building, a one main point of security entry.
Yeah, all of those program requirements that came out of our initial meetings with you all of what you need in this building. Go ahead, Scott.
Any questions related to programming of what's in or related to the cost presented? I'm going to go into some other options here in a second, so just wanted to give an opportunity. And we can summary at the end as well.
I just have a comment. I'm the trial court administrator, and I was reviewing the plans last night. I noticed that the jury boxes only have room for 12. We need 14 because we have 2 alternate jurors.
Oh, no, she's bringing.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, and there's space in here to increase those and add additional spaces as well. There's floor plan room for that.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to double check.
Bruce, any questions right now?
No, I'm just absorbing it all.
All right, yes, continue.
Okay, so I will transition to kind of what we're calling option 2. So what you will see here is a slightly different rendering. This is actually a reduction in the 4th floor, so the prosecuting floor. So just decreasing and removing that floor plan would require no relocation of the prosecuting attorneys to the new building. And I'll have Ken or Ben speak a little bit more to the programmatic impacts related to this. From a financial perspective, this would be around, as I said, from a targeting perspective, a $29 million project. And from a square footage perspective, 45,000 square feet.
Hi, this is Ben. I mean, this one's pretty self-explanatory as this slide shows. It's everything else is there except that prosecutor floor. Part of that master plan document back in August was showing a remodel of the existing prosecutor space. Once AMP moves out of the courthouse, there would be room for that prosecutor to expand into their space in that existing courthouse. So just throwing around options, we kind of felt this was an easy move to help get that cost down a bit. Also, one of the judges did mention that they would like to be on the top floor, have the courts on the top floor, so this is kind of satisfying that requirement too.
And as I said, I'm just going to go back.
Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
I'm going to go back. That's just kind of a rendering to give you a perspective of an exterior concept of what that would look like. And then option 3 is more of a drastic option to align with a construction cost of $24 million. That would be a removal of the 4th floor. And then we would have to collaborate from a programmatic perspective on trying to reduce an additional 5,000 square feet. That 5,000 square feet would really start to look at areas such as holding areas, more intensive, high level of finish. It's not as simple as a reduction in just corridor areas or circulation space. It would start to be more of an impact to programs individually. Those programs that would be affected we would have to collaborate and understand what those impacts would be. But we do need to decrease that overall footprint of the building. Another piece of that is the exterior. We don't have a rendering because we would really have to explore the amount of metal panel, the amount of glazing, what the entryway looks like. We would really need to dial that back. But with those adjustments, we would have a construction cost as a target for us to work collaboratively to of $24 million. So I'm going to turn it over once again to Ken and Ben to maybe give a little bit more information related to this option.
Yeah, this option, like I said, the prosecutor's floor would not be in the building. And then there's a upper left, the red rectangle there, that would actually be a chunk that is taken out of the building on all floors. So there'd be, a little bit of a wedge removed from there. And the bottom left, the green L shape, is that stair tower, and taking that stair and elevator tower and moving it interior to the building to, reduce square footage. And really what that does is displaces some of the functional program spaces inside. Like you can see on the court floor, it really displaces an entire jury room and the jury room toilet, which is definitely not a reduction that is desirable whatsoever. There, would have to squeeze that in some other spot in the building, but we couldn't quite find anything to put that, or where to put that. We're displacing a couple offices and some break room space.
A good chunk of the clerk's work area, as well as circulation space. It's going to impact just circulation around the building.
Yeah. So this is really kind of extreme measures. It's not just reduce the cost by using cheaper materials or anything. It is losing functional program space that is desired. It's kind of you're really losing value this way.
Yeah, and it's also going to have to cause us to go back to the drawing board in a sense and kind of reconfigure floor plans and as you can see on the main level plan, there is no hallway into that bathroom anymore. So some of those spaces are going to have to get reconfigured and relaid out to make the floor plan work, essentially.
And go ahead, Scott.
I was just going to add that we have explored on all three of these options additional changes in finishes, and to Ken's point, finishes, products, elements, and it does move the needle, and we're still going to explore it. Our big concern is that a simple change in product type doesn't move the needle to the necessary value that you have today. So that's why today we wanted to present some bigger options to give you a sense of the steps that would need to be looked at in order to align. Our last slide for today is just kind of next steps, just to give you a sense on where we are in the process. It's at a very high level. We're presenting today, really looking for what I guess the ask is an understanding, not immediately today, but on the timeline that you can provide. How do we get that alignment? What is the desire to move forward? And that really sets the stage for our team to continue to collaborate. The importance of that is that I believe we all really are looking to get this out of the ground this year. And so as we take the time to make the right decision, we also don't want to advance the ball through design. So we want to start to progress the design once that decision's been made. And we have a shortened window in order to make sure that we're bringing this out of the ground in the fall. And so that's really the importance, is that we have 2 more design milestones. We have a design development, which is further information that we would have you review and make sure that we're on the right track. Upon approval of that, we would transition into construction documents. And those would be the documents that we would issue to the community to provide trade partner bidding on. That's how we would establish our GMP. Yeah, and then the last element of this is also we want to make sure that we have an opportunity to get into the design review with the city of Coeur d'Alene. So, and we don't want to get into that review until we have an understanding of where we're kind of settling. So those are the elements that are all. Go ahead, Freddie.
Yeah, so one thing, if we do take one of the options where the top floor is taken off, I'm pretty sure we don't have to go through the design review process, because now we're under 50 thousand square feet. So then we're just back into the permitting process with the city then at that point.
So, yeah, I guess we'd open it up for any questions or comments.
I'm just curious how did it end up getting so wrong on the numbers? Because the way I understood it was that this building was kind of proposed to be, what, in the 26, 28 million?
Well, yeah, until all of the construction industry went crazy and materials and all that. So,
But even, I mean, that's not something that happened like overnight. It's been happening over the last couple years. So the last meeting I sat in on, and I'm new here, but I sat in on it, and it just talked about, well, we need to figure out a few of the costs here. Didn't talk about get ready for a floor to be removed, because that actually just creates a whole new problem for the board to have to think about, okay, well, how are we going to manage to this? Because there's a lot of folks that are, I think, looking forward to having a workspace that was a lot more conducive to the whole point of this project. And so to see it kind of, I mean, honestly, I'm kind of shocked that it's, we're off by that much without really knowing earlier on.
right. So I don't know, Ken, is that something you can speak to? I mean,
Yeah, and you know, Commissioner Duncan, you really kind of did answer it yourself. It is, you know, not only construction industry materials cost. It's labor increase. It's not necessarily kind of design related because we could design a square box that's got no windows in it, and it's still that same square footage at a square footage cost. So, unfortunately, I don't want to say de-escalation is what it is, but I'm not sure what else to kind of attribute it to. There's nothing fancy really that's going on in this building as far as extraneous design things that are on the outside of the building. It'll look nice with the finishes that it has. We're not gold plating anything whatsoever.
And I think when we developed our initial estimate, it was us and Corey sitting down and saying, this is what we've seen from our experience. This is what we've seen the costs are going to be, and that's how we developed that estimate. Whereas Boughton's actually went out to the trade partners and got hard numbers, or not hard bid numbers, but got hard quotes from the subcontractors from their trade partners themselves.
Yeah.
Get it a little more accurate that way.
Yeah, and this really isn't unique to just this project. We've had a couple in the last couple of years that bid, and one of them was $30 million, and it came in at 50, and had to go back to the drawing board and take out a whole bunch of square footage to get it down to the budget the owner had. We had one that bid and was 30% higher than what it was, and they decided to rebid it, and it came back 40% higher. So it's just kind of a unfortunate market out there at the moment.
okay. I don't know if there is a good answer.
Corey, do you have anything, local examples that you can point to?
No, we're seeing a lot of the same thing. It's making it really hard to estimate any of our projects right now because it's hard to get our hands around the cost. I've got a surgery center in Hayden that's out under construction right now, and our original estimate was $8 million, and it came in at 11. That's under construction right now, so that was bid a year ago. And it's just really hard for us to estimate anything at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're fighting during construction, getting hit with cost escalations on, materials and delivery, and contractors not holding prices for products. And
When I think of where we are in the process, we're still very early on, where it's a validation, very high level of design, and I share your sentiment and concern. Is just like, why are we just getting this information now? The good thing is that we're not getting it later on in, say, August of this year, because once the design team has gone from this high level of design to now we've produced construction documents, it is so difficult to then reduce those documents, go back out to the street to get new numbers, and really get the value of the reductions that you've made at that point.
Right.
We're at a good point in the process to have these really difficult discussions, to make these hard decisions, and then set ourselves up for success through the rest of the project. And we're confident in these numbers. That's a big reason why we went out to so many trade partners as we did, to really make sure we understood where the market was at. We're comfortable with the projections of what's happening with the market and our ability to control this number from here forward as we manage right now it's about square footage, and later decisions it's going to be about material types and other things to help really drive on this number. But today that's really what the decision needs to be around, is the size of this project and aligning that to the amount of money that we can allocate to it.
Right. Brandy, I'll
And,
just.
Scott, you had, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Ken.
Scott had also mentioned there's a number of contingency amounts in their budget that are, roughly $2 million, something like that. Scott, correct me if I'm wrong. That would be key to kind of go over some of those line items too, that you're accommodating, not only cost escalation, but also there's contingency in there for during construction, change orders, et cetera.
That's correct. Within every estimate that we have, we've got our construction contingency for the contract. But beyond that, because we are at a schematic validation level, we're carrying 12% contingency within the estimate to cover continued evolution of the actual estimate. So that is in the $35 million number, it is in the $29 million number, it is in the $24 million number. So
Both design, estimating, and inflation
Right.
escalation contingencies.
Correct.
Makes that up 6% and 6%.
Right, so about 3.5 million out of the 35.
that's correct.
Okay. Brandy, we're gonna have this assigned fund balance exercise here soon. So, can you give us any preliminary numbers about what we are looking at?
Correct. So we wait till our audit is done to do that exercise. It should be in the next 2 weeks, I'm hoping. So I was looking at just Fund 11, which is our replacement reserve. That's essentially our savings for all of our big projects. My estimate right now would be $12 million available. That includes the 1.4 million, and that's what we use for basically mid-year stuff like cars, etc. 8.5 million for it's labeled as master plan. 1 million for our 5-year plan budgets for the jail and facilities, and then 1 million of assigned fund balance for IT. So obviously the biggest bucket in there is the 8.5 million for master plan, and then you could also consider, I'd say we have anywhere from 1.5 to 2 million in our district court fund. We also have 800,000 in our restricted court facilities fund, which is separate in Fund 11. That is legally restricted I would have to consult with legal if we could use that, but it's for upkeep of court facilities specifically.
Right. Okay. So it looks like, provided we can get some other savings, that we may have some general fund to throw towards the project. And then ARPA ladies, we are at 24, 26 million in ARPA funds.
It is 24 million of ARPA funds for construction, and then the total with the pre-construction costs also set aside from ARPA funds is approximately 26 million.
Okay. So, I mean, I really have heartburn about taking the top floor off because that sets us back quite a bit. So, I don't know. I mean, Bill, I know that you said $20 million building, but that's a shack. So
Oh, I know,
compared to
but,
what we need.
I also, 6 months ago, 7 months ago, somebody came in and saying, well, we got this at this much, this at that much, this at this much, this, And I said, how much for the whole thing? And you know what they said? I don't know, you probably know who said it. $45 million. So I don't see that having changed much, honestly. $45 million. And that's a heck of a lot of money. And I'm not enthralled with the way that we've allocated the ARPA money. I do think we need more space for the people in the court and others. And it needs to be good space, not rented space. So I'm not happy about this, the way it's gone. Who was it that was talking about putting neon lights as accents in the window?
I've never heard of that.
It was in a meeting. I can pull it up.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know.
When they did that, I was thinking of the red light district in Amsterdam, Not cool. Not in Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah. All right, Bruce.
Well, in situations like this, I'd almost want to reevaluate everything, but this isn't really a normal situation. I almost think we should have a little bit of time to kind of think about it and then maybe talk more about it sooner rather than later. We have Kootenai North, and maybe it's time to start having a much more in-depth conversation about how that can play in with the bigger picture if it looks like we can't have this fourth floor, because that really changes things a lot.
I think we can have the fourth floor. I think we should have the fourth floor. We better get busy on Kootenai North because the people in the county aren't going to be very patient with a $45 million building if we're not using the, 63,000 square feet we have out there.
Is it that much out there? No, I don't
How
think
much
so.
is
We
it?
can't use it for court services. 30 and 40.
Kootenai North?
Yeah. So we actually have a presentation at 10 o'clock Tuesday morning on the uses of Kootenai North. So that can play into our discussion, but in my mind, two completely separate things. Kootenai North can't be used for anything court services related. We're trying to bring more people back together instead of the prosecutor has people in 4 buildings right now.
Well, I agree. It's just a matter of what can be done down here because Kootenai North is becoming available so that we can move the different departments around so they can still stay here but have the space they need.
Well, I can tell you that all the things that I've been through, elections can't go there, community development can't go there. So I've done a lot of consulting with all the departments. I actually met with them in my office, one after the other, once we got the long-term plan thing together. And right now, the presentation on Tuesday looks like it's going to be the best, which will move at least one department from admin out to, I don't want to get too far ahead because I think that the presentation on Tuesday will make it a lot better instead of me trying to Tim Taylor it. So I'm happy to put this on, well, it is on the, every Tuesday at 2:00, we discuss these things. So I agree, though, I really think we need to have a decision by, is it 28th? I think March 28th is a couple weeks from now. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to change my mind between now and then. I think we have to build the building as presented, except with any value, reductions that we can get, obviously. So, and having that, that fund balance, I would like to see us not have to use any more than 7 million in fund balance at this point. So, so we'll see how things go forward. But yeah, it's a lot to chew on. I mean, I was given a slight heads up earlier in the week, so I didn't faint in today's meeting. But yeah, it's kind of a heartache because in 2019 we were looking at an $18 million building, but you can't just wake up one day and say, well, we should have done that then. So it's quite unfortunate, and I guess we're kind of blessed that we have the ARPA funds we do to help us get to that bottom line figure. So
I have no problem going ahead with it today. I don't think anything's going to change.
okay.
So I'd make a motion if that's okay.
Well, I want to give Bruce a little bit of time to think about it. We can.
My only reluctance is just the fact that because I'm so new, and because of this budget process and because of the amount of money that's in fund balance, that without having a little more of an understanding, I would almost not want to even cast a vote because I just don't want to cast votes on things I don't know. I don't understand.
So on Tuesday, I can actually bring forward a lot of the work that I've already done for my so-called 2-year ideas. So
And that's helpful. Yeah, I agree. We should make a decision sooner. Things probably aren't going to get any cheaper.
no. Well, I always have hope that the rest of the country is going to tank and free up all that material.
Yeah. Okay.
And Kootenai County will still keep going, but I can dream. So anyway, all right, we still have proposed alternate design options for cost. Is that number 2 on the agenda? I don't know if that's you guys or.
I think that we can go back.
Oh, okay.
I kind of blended the presentation all the way through.
Okay.
So I apologize for not following the agenda completely, but that was the presentation.
Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure that we did cover that, because I know you guys talked about the finishes and stuff like that, but obviously we have to get what size building we're doing first and then move from there, so.
Yep, correct.
I will open it up to the audience now for questions, comments. Nothing? Okay, anybody online, Jonathan? Okay. I just will reiterate that this space expansion is 5 years overdue. We have people just so close together, and it's not conducive to our justice system. And most people have heard me over and over again. If you're going to be a government, that's the one thing you need to do right, and that's justice. So I'm still going to push forward with we've got to do something, because we can't go out and rent court space for any amount of time. That's not going to be beneficial. So, yeah, any closing thoughts, Bruce?
No, I agree with you. It's just a matter of, with these massive increases that aren't really expected, we just have to be very careful, given the fact that if there is a slowdown in the future, that we haven't exhausted our rainy day fund,
Right.
And then put ourselves in an even worse situation.
Right. So, Brandy, I know you don't want to do this before the thing is due, but on Tuesday, can you give us a little bit better?
Sure, I will see if I can actually escalate the assigned fund balance into the next week or so.
Okay.
And as far as I'll get into this more later, but this is truly our savings, our emergency funds, rainy day funds. We keep those in 10 and 15. So I haven't even addressed those today. So those we keep separate.
So, yeah, so I don't know that Bruce knows this, but we have 22 million in our cash reserves?
I'll say approximately.
Approximately. So what the previous board decided to do was keep about 3 months operating expenses. We don't even see that. That's not even an option to look at going forward. So even if we exhaust the 8+ million, we still have that 22 million in cash reserves.
Right,
So-
you can't spend anything during the year, but
Right.
that's in reserves for emergencies.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, it is. And I'll
So,
go
but-
into more detail.
But even with future projects, we should understand how that,
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to at least get a better sense of the world with that.
And then there's also, I always want to call them the LTAC funds, but that's the wrong acronym for it. So we have 700,000, or actually 780,000, I think, in another government
The
handout.
tribal
Yes.
monies, yeah.
So that, I mean, that's nearly $1 million that can do that. And I mean, I'm probably confident, 12% contingency, I get it, but we probably, with other finishes and stuff, maybe 31 to 33 million potentially.
What
You know.
what do you gentlemen estimate prices have gone up in the last 2 years percent-wise?
So it's on page,
Oh, I know, but
yeah,
I
what's
just,
the,
do you have a feel for?
In the last 2 years, it's just been over like 22%.
22%.
Yep.
I'll agree that's, and I agree too, and I understand. One of the things we need to do is make sure we take care of our people also. And I don't think we're doing any 22% increases for people. I think we have 2 pods at the jail that are unfinished. We have a terrible overcrowding situation right now where it could be real trouble for the county, and it could cost us a lot more to do those 2 pods. So it's a whole thing, and I don't want to get too corny, but we're a family, and we have to take care of each other in addition to building a new wing for the house. So.
all right. I've already called for public comment, so if there's nothing else, 11:49, meeting adjourned. So. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Ben.